Hello everyone. We have our event today. We are waiting for a few more seconds. I hope so more people will join. Always someone who are a little late. I want to respect those who are on time. That's why I started event and want to say hi to you. Hello. Hello. I would like to reply, but your names are so untypical for me, so I don't want to break my tongue and make mistakes with saying your names. So, good. Okay. So let's start. Let's move on. Today event, today webinars, it's about Deye brand, mostly about the hybrids because they are quite interesting. But when we tell about Deye, it's good to mention about the other products as well. All event will take about 1 hour, maybe a little bit more, but depending how many questions there will be during the training. I don't see chat during the training, so I try to answer for all those questions at the end on the Q&A session. During the training, there is my colleague from Menlo team, Milos. He tried to reply most of your questions on the chat. So I hope it will be fruitful time for all of you. Let's begin. We organizers of those events of those webinars. We are Menlo. We are distributor of PV modules, mostly PV modules and inverters as well. We are working right now on 37 markets around the world in 3 continents, which is Europe, Africa, and Middle East. It's not it's subcontinent. Let's call it subcontinent. We have 3 years history of company, but we are not only wholesaler. We are not only distributor. We are also a place when you can share your experience, when you can get some information. That's why we make this kind of webinars online. We also make meeting trainings on site in your countries. So there is also possibility to have individual consultations. So if you need some help, if you are looking for some information, feel free to contact with your local sales guy. He will set meeting with us, with Menlo Academy, with technical team in Menlo to help solve your problem, find best possible solution, explain you that that solution exists. If you need very complicated, if you have very complicated situations, and that's us. That's Menlo Academy. That's us. Not only sale, but also decent support, which we try to provide. If you want to contact with us directly with Menlo technical team, here is our email support.em@menloelectric.com. There's also hotline. You might try to call us, speak with us directly. It's in English, of course, but hope it's good enough. If you're on English webinar, so I guess it's good enough for you. Our brands in Menlo, we are distributors. We sell 9 brands of inverters, and today we focus on one of them, which is Deye. About Deye itself, it's a brand which was founded in 2007. Its actual factory, they actually produce those devices. It's not a brand. There are some brands on the market. I don't want to say names because this webinar is recorded. But there are brands they don't produce. They are just brands. They put it in their own box. They organize application, marketing, distribution process, but they are not producers. They is actual producers. So they are focusing. They are very well in designing these devices about technical parts of their products, and they are not so master. They are not so experienced in everything around about documentation, about marketing. That's why there is no articles about how Deye is good. People came back with information that Deye is a tremendous product. It's amazing, but it doesn't have big marketing team which advertise you from each side that they is the best. No, they have best. They have very good hardware, and that would like to focus on. You're right that there's a problem with sound. Try to switch to other one. Now it sounds better. Now it sounds better. Hello. Does it sound better right now? Okay. So I turn off camera.
Okay. How about now? I don't have had. It's better. Okay. Okay. So it's good. Way better. Okay. Sorry for that problem. Good that you mentioned about that. So about Deye, it's not a brand. It's a company. It's a factory who actually produce inverters. So they are focusing on products. They're focusing on hardware. They're focusing to make best possible product. And they are not focusing so much about everything around, about marketing, about this kind of stuff. So in some point of their history, they decided not to be a just OEM producers, but to become a real brand who is actually present on the market. And in 2019, they entered to the market with their own brand, and they become not only producers for other brands, but they become separate their own brand. They are very famous in South Africa, in Brazil, in that areas, thanks to their their durability, thanks to their good service. They become important supplier of the goods. Now it's time for Europe because it's quite a big market. So let's start a little tip, a little short input with the on-grid inverters. They have wide portfolio. They cover most of needs, starting from smallest one-phase inverters through the most popular three phases, 5 up to 15 kilowatts inverters, up to 110 kilowatts. It's already developed. It's a matter of few weeks when 136 device will appear. So they have wide portfolio. No matter what kind of inverter you need, probably they has it. But what it's good to mention about right now, they offer, they have two parallel generations of the three-phase string inverters. First of them, Go5.P. It's an inverter with quite typical voltages, max DC input voltage, which is 1000 volts, but they have the biggest on the market input current, available input current, which is 20 amps. It's not short circuit current, it's normal operation input current, which means that if you plan to install 20, 30, 500, 600 watt modules on house, feel free to do that. There's no problem with that, because Deye Geo5 allows you to do that, especially that Deye doesn't put any limitations for power for single MPPT, for each MPPT. So it's not a problem to connect 8, 10 kilowatts of power of modules to one MPPT. Thanks to very high current, you can do it with very strong module, very big modules. But there are other thing, which is the other generation is Geo6 detection, Geo6 series, which has more typical current, which is 13 amps. It's more typical for modules up to 475, 410, 420, 450, 460 is perfectly fine, that amount of current, but with higher maximum voltage and higher MPPT operating range, which allows you to build longer strings. So depending how you like to build your installation of your client installation, with smaller but more modules, or with bigger modules with higher current, both situations are supported by Deye inverters. And this is something which is good to know, because no other producers, as far as I know, doesn't support that feature, and it's quite interesting in my opinion, and it's good to know and mention about it. Okay, so the next very interesting advantage of Deye is cooperation with the wind turbine. All Deye inverters, hybrids and strings, both of them have ability to cooperate with wind turbine. And except that G6 generation 6 inverters has 1100 volts max DC, and Geo5 generation has maximum 20 amps input current DC. So they have very good parameters, allowing to build different kind of installation. It has 10 years warranty in standard if you buy it from Memo. They are small and light. All hybrid inverter or string inverter has SPD, DC, and AC type 2. They use external monitoring, which is SolarMan. So if you are familiar with other brands which use SolarMan already, so there is completely no difference for you to switch in settings and commissioning. It's the same process than if you use other brands. Two more things which is good to know, good to mention, is 110 AC power of each string inverter. If you buy 10 kilowatts string inverter, you actually buy 11 kilowatts inverter, because all string inverter can produce 10% more than without any limitation, 10% more their actual power. Thanks that you buy more, paying for less. And the last but not least is the LCD screen and buttons for typical mechanical buttons. It's good because it's when everything fails, internet, everything fails, LCD screen and buttons always give you some information, feedback, how installation works. You can change your settings. It's simple, it's achievable for every user. So it's simple, easy. It's a good thing. I'm not a fan that producers resign from that feature, which is LCD screen and buttons. So in that area, it's a good thing. and thing which I mentioned about, but I reply myself. Deye inverter doesn't put any limitation for each MPPT with power, so whole installation can be connected into one string. Okay, and the last thing which is good to compare, because it's easy to say that some brand some product is okay if we don't compare it with other brands, if we don't compare it with competition. Here I took few competitors from the same area, the similar pricing area, and as you can see, I cannot show actual prices, but as you can see, with similar parameters, price ratio is taken from the actual buying price divided by the price of the cheapest element. In that matter, it's Go6 Deye string inverter. It shows that it's much cheaper in most cases than any other brands, still provides all what is necessary: good quality, good warranty, service, support, monitoring, 2 MPPTs, good parameters. So everything what is necessary with very competitive, very aggressive pricing. Okay, so that's about string. It was short mention about string. Let's go to hybrids. The creme de la creme in the case of Deye. Before we reach the actual matters about hybrids inverters, I would like to equalize some knowledge. Be sure that everyone knows the same and understand some situations in the same way. First thing, how hybrid works, what gives you ability to connect the batteries into your photovoltaic system. Here we have a draft from production and consumption from some house from some day. The orange color is the production from the PV. Blue color is how your grid is loaded, is stressed. Red one is loads inside your house, and green, it's how battery works. In that period of time, which is showed, when there is production, it's very low consumption, so the energy, instead of sending to the grid, is used to charge a battery. In the other part of the day, when the battery is full and you cannot charge them further, the production which you have is sent to the grid. It's also, this draft shows you the typical ratio of storage energy and send it to the grid. And at the end of the day, when the sun is down, the sun is shining, you have consumption in your house, but still the blue line, you don't use energy from your grid because you use energy from your battery. And when the grid is off, in any moment of the day, you still can use energy because you have backup mode. That means you have hybrids. There are three types of hybrid, three types of PV installation. First of them is the most popular, the most typical, let's say. It's on-grid installation. Its advantages: it's simple, it's the cheapest, it's the easiest to plan and install. Its problem is that it works only with grid. So you have PV panels, you have power plant on your roof, and you cannot use energy when the grid is off. And the very low self-consumption. So if the government regulation are not positive, are not beneficial, then you can't actually use energy which you produce. The other thing is off-grid installation, which is completely separated from anything. It's old calculator, it's lamp on the streets, but also it can be some fishing cabin and camper. It's also off-grid installation. You can use it anywhere. You do not connect to public grid, so you don't have to worry about at all about regulations, because you don't compare to anyone. But the problem is limited battery lifespan, and what is the most important, more even important, limited amount of energy. It's perfectly fine to use off-grid installation during the summer, but in our region during the winter it's a problem, because during the day you don't produce that amount of energy which you can storage and use it during the night, and it's almost impossible and completely economical nonsense to try to storage energy from the summer up to the winter. So people wouldn't be people if they wouldn't figure out third kind of installation. I call it Grid Dye. It's not very accurate name, but I call it like this to equalize the name which we use. Grid Dye is the installation when you have unlimited energy, because during the day you can use energy from your PV, energy which you produce and don't use, you can storage in your battery, and during the night you can use your battery. But if you don't produce during the day enough energy, then you can buy it, you can take it from the grid. So we have two sources of energy, grid and your PV installations. Thanks to batteries, you increase self-consumption up to 50-60%. That depends on particular project, particular situation, but more or less you can count it's 50-60%. It's much more expensive, and in complicated installation, because you need to add a smart meter, you need to add batteries, so there are some additional devices which is not only cost but also complementary of installation. And when we combine all that kinds of installation together, then we can call it hybrid installation, which doesn't give you power backup, so ability to switch between on-grid and off-grid. It's not a hybrid. This is something which I always try to teach everyone. Okay, why do we use hybrids? To move on, there are four typical reasons why we use hybrids. First of them, the most typical, is to increase self-consumption. This to have an emergency power supply, if the grid is off, then to have a second source of energy. It's especially important for people who heat themselves with electricity, who cook on electricity. Some people even drive with their car on electricity. So for them, they're not having energy for 2, 3, 4 days when there will be some tornado and completely breaks the lines. It's something dramatic. So emergency power supplies in some cases are even more important than increasing self-consumption. Third reason why do we use battery system, hybrid system, which cause that government push us to do that, is counteracting plant shutdowns. It's connected with increasing self-consumption, because if you don't send energy to the grid is not overloaded. If it's not overloaded, the voltage doesn't go so high to turn off your PV installation. Thanks batteries, you can release some limits from the grids and allows all PV installation works perfectly fine. The last thing is electricity trading, that depending on the country and regulation in specific country, but thanks to battery, not every brand allows you to do that. I can tell you that Deye does. It gives you that opportunity to have electricity trading, to buy energy, charge batteries when the energy is very cheap, and sell energy when it's very expensive from the battery. Okay, Next thing, it's good to know, it's balanced and unbalanced output of the three-phase devices. All devices three-phase are balanced. In other words, they are symmetric. It means that they produce the same amount of energy, or takes, but in that case, they produce the same amount of energy for each phase. It means that and most of your loads in your house, it's single phase. It means at the end of the day that your installation produce 5 kilowatts. Let's say, for example, 5 kilowatts. Your house loads on one phase use 5 kilowatts, but still you don't have 100% self-consumption. No. If you have balanced inverter, you have 33% of self-consumption because two phases go through transformator, through grid operator. So it's important to have unbalanced, It's good thing to have unbalanced output because inverter knowing on which phase you use energy, he knows it thanks to smart meter, which is necessary in the hybrid installations. It can produce that amount of energy for that phase, which actually right now is under load. Thanks that you increase self-consumption even up to 100% just by having this function or not. So good to know, good to ask, does your hybrid inverter has unbalanced output? And the last, not last, one more thing which I want to tell you about, it's backup limitations. It's in on-grid situation, there is no problem. If our installation doesn't produce enough energy, we buy it from the grid, there is no problem, we don't have to worry about nothing. But there are situations when our installation switch into backup mode, when the grid is off, or something happened with the grid, so there is some maintenance workout, something like that. Then we have three backup limitations, which cause that our system might collapse, might turn off. Our client, your client, has PV panels, have hybrid installation, has batteries. They feel safe because they have this emergency power supply thanks to the hybrid inverter and batteries. They start using when the grid is off and the system turn off. They are angry, they are mad. So it's good to know what limitations are over there to tell the customer, you cannot do that on the off-grid mode, or to get all the requirements from the installation and plan it in that way that if the customer work as he promised, work as he required, you as an installer, your installation will survive and work perfectly fine. Why I'm telling you about it? One of our first sold installation, it was a hybrid installation a few years ago. We had that situation. That client was so happy, was so excited that he has hybrid installation, has batteries, has PV system, and so on. So he cut himself from the grid. He do it on purpose. He know what he was doing because he was so happy that he can use his own energy from the batteries perfectly. But during the night, this guy turned on his electric sauna, which takes 11 kilowatts, and the system collapsed. And he says, why? It's supposed to work. But he didn't mention to the installer that this is the way how he will use his installation during the night in the off-grid mode. So what's the limitation? It's written over here. Power of inverter, that's the most obvious one. If you have 10 kilowatts inverter, you cannot take from the inverter more than 10 kilowatts, 12 kilowatts, 12 kilowatts. It's obvious. It's simple. It's logical. But there's other thing. Power on a single phase. What does it mean? Each inverter has limitation not from overall installation, from overall loads, but also has some limitation or a single phase. So if you have limitation 33% and you have 10 kilowatts inverter, you cannot on one phase take more than 3.3 kilowatts. That's the reason, the second point, power of a single phase, why it's good to think to maybe buy bigger hybrid inverter than you have power of PV panels, because in off-grid mode, you have more power on single phase, on each phase. And third limitation is battery power. We also, most of us thinks about batteries, right, it's only capacity. Not only. Battery has capacity and has power. It means that you can charge and discharge battery with certain speed, with certain power. So if the limitation of the battery is lower than the limitation of inverter, the system might collapse as well. I show you what's the limitation in Deye. You don't have to remember all of this. I just want to mention, to give you a clue. It's a good to remember about it. And when you have specific requirement from the customer, call to us for individual consultation, call to the tech team, and then we can put together the requirements and help you to design and to choose proper devices to do that. Okay, and the last thing in knowledge equalization, there is not only hybrid installation, but there is also technology, call it AC couple, AC charger, retrofit. It's all the same. It's like everyone knows that our car is a combi, but BMW have to call it Touring, and Peugeot have to call it SV. It's okay. It's the same. It's just different name for the same solution. As a couple, as a charger, retrofit. How it works? What is it? It's a solution when you have already on-grid inverter installed and you want to expand this installation with batteries. You add additional device. You add this device. You add as a couple unit, AC charger, retrofit unit is the same. Add energy meter at the end of client's installation. And how it works? When on-grid installation produce energy, that energy what you need for the home loads goes to the home loads, and the rest energy are sent to the grid. Not exactly. Energy meter stops, sends that energy, and tell to the retrofit unit it's time to charge a battery. He takes that amount of energy which we're supposed to send to the grid and put it into battery. And in the other solution, there is end of the day, there is no more, after sunset, PV panel doesn't produce energy at all, on-grid inverters turned off, and our house use some energy. In energy meter sense that we want to take energy from the grid and tells to the AC charger unit, no, it's time to discharge battery and put energy into the grid, like the second on-grid installation, but this one is not supplied with PV panels, but is supplied to energy with batteries. Okay, I hope it's understandable. So let's move to the Deye hybrid system. Deye have three possible hybrid system. First of them is low voltage system. It's single phase and three phase. I focused on the second one because this is the much more interesting, especially and not more interesting, but also it's very unique because as far as I know, Deye has the only one three-phase hybrid inverter on the market. Why it's so important that it's low voltage? It means that it can support, it can work with low voltage batteries. Well, low voltage means 40 up to 60 volt batteries. And here we have set with 6.14 kilowatt hours of batteries from Deye, but that's not it. You can connect any other kind of batteries because it's low voltage system. You can connect it for old car batteries. It's not a good idea, but you can do it. you can take pallet stacker, battery from pallet stacker, and connect, because it's 50 something volts batteries, and connect it into low voltage inverter. We always recommend it to use the same brand of inverter and batteries, because there is no problem with communication, there is no problem with requirement. It works perfectly fine together. But if you have a client which has DIY abilities, or you want to build different kind of battery system, you don't want to take original battery from producers, low voltage inverters allows you to do that. It's also, of course, a long list, like 50 or 80 other batteries producers, which are already tested with their low voltage inverter, so you can connect it into it. But low voltage inverters allows you to connect any battery which you like. And additionally, low voltage batteries are much cheaper. Inverter, it's more expensive, because if you want to reach the same power with lower voltage, you need to discharge with much higher current. It means that inverter with low voltage batteries uses 60 millimeters square cables. It has to survive 200 amps of charge and discharge. So the copper inside low voltage inverter is much more. It weighs more. It costs more. But batteries are so much cheaper that the set low voltage inverter plus low voltage batteries, it's the cheapest possible hybrid set on the market, with all three phases features, all the features. So it's something, the cheapest system on the market with the greatest feature which I ever see. Into that features, we reach that moment. I promised you to tell you what's the power of the battery. I show you how to count it, because most producers doesn't give you an information, an official straight information, what's the power of the battery. So what's the limitation due to battery power? And here I show you how to count it. When we have 51 volts batteries and we can discharge it maximum with 100 amps, it means that this battery power is 5.1 kilowatt. We can peak up to 2 minutes, stress the battery up to 150 amps, but still we have 7.7 kilowatts maximum discharge from the batteries. We have up to 12 kilowatts three-phase inverter, and the maximum power of battery is 7 kilowatts, but we shouldn't process more than 5 kilowatts. You see the difference of the numbers. If you want to exceed that number, you need to use 2 batteries. So when you have designing process, you says, I want low voltage battery because it's cheaper, it's perfectly fine for my client, but my client has, I don't know, heat pump, and it takes 8 kilowatts. I'd have to be prepared to take 8 kilowatts. So one battery, it's not enough. This is how we as a Menlo can help you to reach properly requirements and design properly installation. It's not a problem as far as you know about it. Okay, so that was the low voltage batteries system. Here we have high voltage hybrid inverter. It's the most typical inverter on the market. It's not like everyone else because it has fantastic features, but it's the most competitive, it's the most typical device which is easy to compete with other brands. Deye has the battery, high voltage batteries with 5 kilowatt hours each. You need to use minimum 4. So the minimum capacity of batteries from Deye, if you choose to use Deye batteries high voltage, is 20 kilowatt hours. It's a big battery, so it's not very popular product, but still there is a list of compatible different batteries like BYD, like Pylon Tech. So you can build a system with different batteries with smaller capacity, because overall cost of the installation is lower. So why? But it's still not a problem. It's not a bug. It's a feature. Why? Because the next stage, the next level, no one else has so big hybrid inverters. Everyone else ends with 20 kilowatts. I heard something that Goodway has 30 kilowatts, but I didn't see it in real life. And Deye has already sellable 30 up to even 50 kilowatts hybrid inverters. And here, when you have maximum 12 batteries in one stack, it means that you have 61 kilowatt hours. With 50 kilowatt installation power, it's not so stupid. It sounds reasonable, especially that this 30 up to 50 kilowatts inverter has 2 battery inputs. It means that you can connect it up to 222 kilowatt hours in one single 50 kilowatt installation without complicated system, just with a typical hybrid inverter from Deye. No one else gives you that big hybrid inverter. And the battery's power, next thing, but inverters up to 20 kilowatts, maximum discharge power has 37 amps. If you take minimum amount of battery, which is 4, it means that you have 205 volts times 37 amps. It means that with system up to 20 kilowatts with minimum set of batteries, you have 7.6 kilowatts battery power. If you take more battery, you have more higher voltage times 37 amps, rise maximum power which you can charge and discharge from the batteries. In case of 30 up to 50 kilowatts, inverter has ability to charge and discharge with current 50 amps times 600 volts. With this biggest system, it means that one battery set of 12 batteries allows you to charge discharge with more than 30 kilowatts. If it's not enough, you can add additional stack because you have 2 battery inputs, and battery charge discharge power is up to 60 kilowatts with inverter 50 kilowatts. So the battery, it's not a limitation if you design and choose it accordingly. Okay, the third solution which gives us Deye is all-in-one solution, because hybrid installation doesn't have to be pretty, but it might. And here, with help, with answer, came all-in-one solution from Deye. There are 3 phases, 6 up to 10 kilowatts inverters. In datasheet, you can find it's 12, 15, 20 kilowatts inverters as well. They are not produced, they are not delivered to Europe, not yet. So right now, all-in-one inverters are 6 up to 10 kilowatts. It's with high voltage batteries. And the minimum amount of batteries is 2. Each of them has 4 and something kilowatt hours. So minimum set with all-in-one is 8 kilowatt hours with 10 kilowatts inverter. When you connect it all together, it looks like that. So it's pretty. It's whole complete hybrid system with all-in-one function. Here it says that Deye hybrid inverter has 100% unbalanced output in each phase, max output up to 50% rated power. All hybrids from Deye has phase unbalanced. They are asymmetric, and they allows you without time limitation produce or send to the grid, to the particular each phase, up to 50% of its overall power, up to, I guess, 30 seconds, even 100% of the inverter. So when you have 10 kilowatts inverter, up to 30 seconds, you can produce, you can put 10 kilowatts in one single phase, and without time limitation, 5 kilowatts for each phase, no matter which one you want to. So it's the best result on the market. No one else gives you, only three brands gives phase unbalance, and no one gives that big ratio to that unbalancing matter. Okay, so at the end, coming back to backup limitation, with three-phase inverter. With single phase, it's simple. You don't have each phase limitation. You have only limitation of the inverter. It's for small systems. So backup limitation, inverter power, that's obvious. That inverter which you choose, that power of that is the inverter power limitation. On each phase, you can put up to 50% of inverter power. So when you have 10 kilowatts on one phase, you cannot put more than 5 kilowatts. That's why sometimes bigger hybrid inverter is better to have more power on a single phase. Battery power, depending which system, depending what battery, it's different for each system. It's countable. We can help you to count it when your customer gives you that request. So that's the most typical. That's I'll show you what portfolio Deye has. It's good product with phase unbalanced, very good feature, but other producer has it as well. With low voltage batteries, things that can make a cheap system. Other producer doesn't have it, but still it's not big deal. And now we go to the magic, to the moment into which no one else doesn't reach it, which is unique gen input. Why it's so unique? It allows you to use in one of three ways. You cannot have all of them. You can have only one. Very unique features thanks to additional gen input. First of them is cooperation with a power generator. You can connect the power generator directly to hybrid inverter, set that this input works with power generator, and when you do that, your system takes energy from the panels. That's obvious. We go to off-grid mode. There is some cataclysm, some tsunami. It goes to Mediterranean Sea, and there is no power, or there is a 1 meter of snow, and there is no power for a week. If someone heat their house with heat pump, cook, drive, maybe have a water from the underground, without power, I wouldn't say into what place he is, but as you can see, it's not a very comfortable place, and it's a place when this client rather don't want to be, unless he has Deye inverter. Why? Because it has connected power generator, and you set it like this. As long as you have power from the panels, you charge your batteries, your system is independent. But during the day, there was not enough sun, and during the night, battery has discharged, it's almost empty. So when they reach its minimum level, you as an installer set that level, let's say 20%, automatically generator is turned on. You set in settings what power of this generator is. It takes loads, and the rest on energy from the generator is used to charge a battery. When the battery is full, generator is automatically turned off, which means that with Deye, with the solar panels, with battery and power generator, you can create completely automatic, completely autonomic, endless power supply line for the customer who needs his energy because he cannot open his door without electricity, or he cannot heat his water without energy. It's perfect solution. and no one else provides it in that good conditions, in that good way. There are two limitations, which is good to know. It's good to remember. First limitation: single-phase inverter, single-phase power generator. Three-phase inverter, three-phase power generator is the first limitation which you need to know. And the second limitation: power generator need to have auto start. This is the only two limitation, no one else. Every generator which meets to these demands, it's perfectly fine to provide you or your customer endless, safe power energy. Okay. Second way, how you can use gen input. I mentioned you. I told you about AC couple retrofit AC charger. It's fine. It's good solution because it allows you to expand existing installation, not replace it with new one. You expand existing installation. It has only one problem. You know what? If the grid is off, your on-grid inverter is turned off, and you have only backup in the batteries, and the battery will not charge in any circumstances as long as grid doesn't turn back. Not with Deye. In Deye, you can connect on-grid inverter in gen input, set this input as a AC couple input, then inverter simulate grid, simulate voltage and frequency, and turn on grid inverter even when the grid is off. So you have on-grid inverter. It might be microinverters. It might be SolarEdge. You might get some subsidies, and you cannot touch existing installation. You have no way. Or you can use Deye, because thanks to Deye, you can expand existing installation with batteries, with full features, with full abilities of having hybrid installation, because you have not only increasing self-consumption, but also you have endless backup energy as long as the sun is shining for the next 5 trillion years, more or less. Okay, and the third solution which you can use, third way how you can use gen input, it's smart load. It's the solution when you connected your device directly to the inverter, to the hybrid inverter, and set a specific settings. Turn on that device only and only then and only then when I start to send energy to the grid. And you can set it in two different ways. One of them, if you start to send energy, let's say 1 kilowatts, 1000 watts to the grid, then turn on the device, which is, let's say, a heater which has 1.5 kilowatts. You have to take 500 watts from the grid. It's not a bad idea as long as you don't lose 1 kilowatt, which you're supposed to send to the grid. This is the first solution. The second solution is, do not, if you set it in proper settings, that it doesn't take energy from the grid to support smart load output, never ever. So if you can take some, you start to support this device with energy only when you have too much energy and you're supposed to send it to the grid. Never charge this device from the grid. Never, you need to buy never energy from the grid to support that smart load output into energy. I'm always laughing that it's perfect solution for cryptocurrency miner, or for some heater, or for some EV charging your car during the weekend, that you won't buy energy from the grid. You just use your energy from sun, and it happens completely automatically. So it's, again, simple, usable, nice feature. Okay. Device will be useful if it doesn't have good support. In that case, it's support which is in Poland. But don't worry, guys, from the right now there's only guys, I think. guys speaks in English. Here you have QR code to their application. When you install this application on your phone, or you can use it on your computer browser as well. When you do that, you choose what setting, what feature you want to reach, and it exactly shows you what you have to set in particular menus to reach that particular function, to reach that particular feature. It's easy. It has good manual. It has full of Deye has full of videos. It has this application. So commissioning and putting all process, it's quite easy. It doesn't mean it's no problem. It's not like that. If you do it first time, always to be ready for some troubles, because hybrid inverters, hybrid system are much more complicated than on-grid ones, but still they provide quite good service and quite good support. Hybrid comparison. Again, like in on-grid, like in string installation, it's easy to say that this product is the best if we don't compare it with the other brands. So let's do it. Let's make some simple comparison. First of them is how good EPS does it does it give you. Sungrow, Solax, and Fox, I gave them 100% because they give you, if you buy three-phase inverter, they give you three-phase support with that amount of energy limited by inverter. It's good product. SolarEdge and Huawei force you to buy some additional devices. In case of Huawei, you don't have three-phase support. So it exists, it gives something, but it's not as good as other brands. That's why I gave them 50%, and I gave them 200%. Why? Thanks to Gen Input, so you can have real, reliable emergency power supply for every solution in every conditions. Still, they can provide your customer energy without limitation of power, because the biggest hybrid inverter is 50 kilowatts. So it's even bigger. Still, it's just fine, and they support that. The other thing, pricing. To be honest, that's the most important, not most important, but crucial part of comparison. As I told you, if you choose low voltage inverter with low voltage batteries, the price of the set is very low. Thanks that it's very it's the most available system on the market. Yeah, don't fix to the prices. I want to show you just the ratio of pricing, that they have great features, and still it's the cheapest possible brand with all that good features. But we need to combine, we need to compare systems with more equal parameters. So I quote because we need to compare close configuration, apple to apples, peers to peers. So if you try to build the most close configuration, which is 10 kilowatts hybrid inverter with the closest to 10 kilowatt hours of batteries with EPS, better, worse, but with some EPS, that shows the ratio of prices. Still, Deye is the best, but it has a little bit bigger batteries. If we choose different batteries with 5 kilowatt hours to be closer to 10 kilowatt hours of batteries, it will be probably the winner of this ranking as well. About the other features, not only prices, but other features, the question marks should be okay signs. So as you can see, Deye supports smart load. It supports retrofit better than any others, because any other brands, if they have retrofit, they turn off when the grid is off. In case of Deye, we might have still workable on-grid installation when the grid is off, and charge our batteries still using retrofit function. The minimum set is 5 kilo, 3 phases system. It's 5 kilowatts inverter with 6 kilowatt hours batteries. The biggest possible single set is up to 50 kilowatts, up to 122 kilowatt hours, with possibility to connect it up to 10 this kind of system. So with Deye parallelly, so with Deye you can build 500 kilowatts system with 1.2 megawatt hours of batteries. So rather, most of your projects can be supplied with Deye, and they have device for each of your needs. Battery outside, they cannot do it. Only Solax handle with that problem, but no one else does. So that's the situation. About the beauty, it's also discutable. But to be honest, Deye has great inner. That what is inside their features, the products, the electrical parts are amazing. Outside, other brands has more experience designing team, and it looks nicer, but still with these features, with very competitive pricing, it's still great brand. They have remote control thanks to smart thanks to Wi-Fi dongle, which can be replaced with LAN. So thanks to Solarman platform, they support phase unbalanced up to 50% more than others, and they allows you to connect power generator like no one else. And to remind you at the end that Deye provides you low voltage single and three phases system with low voltage batteries, hybrid three phases high voltage system from 6 up to 50 kilowatts, and all-in-one system with 6 up to 10 kilowatts with batteries from 8 up to 24 kilowatt hours. And features and advantages of Deye brand: wide portfolio like no one else, because no one else has 50 kilowatts hybrid inverters, works with power generator best like no one else, works with a wind turbine, both string and hybrid inverters like no one else. They have most advanced retrofit on the market like no one else. They have asymmetric production with on-grid, because in off-grid mode, all in hybrid inverter has asymmetric production, but in asymmetric production in on-grid modes, other brands has it, but no one with that big numbers, with 50% per phase. So it's the next advantage like no one else. They allows you to connect parallel connection up to 10 three-phase inverters and up to 16 single-phase inverters, almost like no one else. Solax support this as well, and they have battery capacity, extremely range battery capacity from 6 kilowatt hours up to 122 kilowatt hours, like no one else. Okay, that's it from my side. I go to chat. I stop recording.